Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the presentation of KPN, the use case, how KPN went to the journey to implement SOI. I'm going to introduce you, Ruud, first. Ruud,
yeah.
Or do you want to go and introduce yourself?
My name is Ruud Kitselaar. I'm architect for all monitoring tooling within KPN. And we are starting SOI since version 0.5, so we do have some experience, which I want to share with you today.
Thank you, Ruud. Today, during this presentation, first of all, the informational purpose only for this time of this presentation. The abstract, as Ruud just presented, is going to go through this journey, explain the history of KPN, starting as an introduction, if you can.
Yeah, one of the complex factors we're facing is actually our history. We are a very old company, so everything which ever was out there is within our IT solution. So we're starting since 1852, and we were also the telco, formal government telco organization. They moved, so formal PTT. We had postal. We were going international for a while using E+, and the Belgium team. G-Tronics was being acquired as workspace and data center solution. So starting from a telco, now having a full scope or full business IT solution, we're able to provide within the Netherlands. So we have loads of them. Makes the whole life a little bit more complex if we want to integrate a solution which is actually based on silo monitoring, as you all know how complex that will be. Mm-hmm. Some figures. Probably you have never heard about KPN. We are local. We are in Holland located. We have about 7 billion euro revenue, 14,000 people. Many things to do. We want to be very effective. We want to really have a good consumer market. And this solution, the SOI is not being used for the consumer market. It's only for the business market. And actually, we're doing pretty good there. We came from a rather very low customer the net promoter score, and our revenue is getting better. And these days we are really focusing on simplification. And simplification, reduce a lot of cost, which is really benefit for us. And SOI does play a role there.
And if you can give us a bit of an history, how did you start, with CA? When did you start, and which product did you start with?
Well, we started with eHeath. I mean, we are an eHeath consumer since 2003. When Concord acquired Spectrum, we started to use Spectrum as well. So we're really network oriented. And within Spectrum, we had the Service Manager module. And so we were trying to implement it for the big customer, the top customers, but it didn't work well. Actually, we were lacking a lot of functionality. So therefore, SOI came on. And I'm telling everyone about we. We is actually a team within KPN. We are providing a service, software as a solution, towards the KPN departments, who are 18 people big. We do housing, hosting, we are consulting, because we figured out that knowledge on this type of products is not that broad. You really have to be an expert. So we have our own team doing 7x24 service, including housing, hosting, consulting, including creating good service model in SOI. As already stated, a few large customers. There was at all beginning. They had some very complex IT solutions, some very tough contracts, and we didn't know exactly how to monitor. And everybody was talking about service monitoring instead of just network monitoring. And Spectrum couldn't fit that solution.
And then you had, a full set of solution coming in, and implementation-wise, what is the architecture? I think you're going to cover just right now.
Yeah, our setup started actually, we had Spectrum and we had eHeath, and we had to combine things. Initially we started with a single service management system with a single CMDB, but already, I told you, we are still a silo organization. So we have multiple service management systems. And we have to glue the whole thing together. So there's a little trick within our solution, and that's our own mediation layer. And that's gluing everything together, so it's automatically provisioning all the tools. And that was working fine for eHeath and Spectrum. And for SOI, we created an integration as well. So click through. Some new errors will appear.
So integration to your service desk. That all the ticketing, etc., came into place.
Because we are still silo-oriented. If something breaks down in one silo, you see errors in the other silo. So what SOI should bring is actually determining which silo it really goes wrong. So there's only one ticket. So no 5 or 6 teams are working. It's only one team working on an issue. So we actually made it a little bit difficult for us to have automatic ticketing being created, but actually that works out very well. So we have the universal help desk connector on SOI, talking to servers now and creating tickets and updates from our tools and being added in the tickets as well. And then the layer systems came on board. Will make it even more tougher for us. But by having our own mediation layer, we're able to pull some additional information from the mediation just before we send out a ticket. So depending on the CMDB and the ticketing system being registered within our mediation layer, we open within the right ticketing system the correct ticket. Of course, we will migrate that over time, but this is just a migration enabler. We can't wait for this implementation for the next 1.5 years. We want to have the solution right now. So by creating more CMDB connection and connections to other system service management systems, we made the whole things work.
Until you came into the mediation layer, bringing services into SOI, that you create your own integrations.
So this great red line is how to provision SOI regarding the service model. So we're not talking about the product SOI itself, but how you create the service model required within SOI. That was the whole thing. Very difficult. We were playing around, and we have even more products actually.
Then came,
UAM, CAPM, and a couple of products which are not connected yet towards SOI, including NetFlow. That will be done later. For today, the eHeath and Spectrum are the primary ones. UAM project is going on, and APM is working actually very well today. But the thing is, how should the service model look like? That's the biggest question. So nothing about a product, but you have to think about a service model.
Which is one of the first thing actually, as just mentioned. You say, well, I've got some needs, I've got customers, I've got internal customers that I need to satisfy, my end users.
Yes.
As mentioned, what is a model, what is a business service, which is always the tricky part, of the story here, to be able to define what do I really need to show to my, all these stakeholders, in this,
Exactly.
And that's, okay.
So, well, without any knowledge, we were just asking our customers, what should the service model look like? And actually, they had no clue. We got the answers from them, and we tried to implement it. But actually, it didn't work for them. They actually did not have a clue themselves. So people were thinking about, okay, I have 3 servers, I have a big LAN, a small LAN, I have 2 different or 3 different type of contracts, and I'm going to check based on the contract, and I want to have a service model for that. But actually the outcome of the service model is just interesting of the contract owner, not for the users within that organization, within that customer, or our service desk. So it's nice to have an SOI implementation, and you have some reports out of it, but the value actually is very low. So our service departments also had an ID. They were thinking about, well, this all belongs to one server, so we had an extremely simple service model, one service, and everything which belongs to that service, we assign it to it. So we call it a pancake. One object and everything is related to it. No intelligence at all. So actually that didn't brought that much value either. Then you could also have actually direct connection to your service management system from Spectrum. Mm-hmm. So we were discussing this, and of course everybody wants to have their own rights. And the good thing of SOI is these service models can run in parallel. So we started to have a next generation server model in addition to that.
Okay.
So we had parallel service models. And actually we run into a situation that we had to add SCOM as well. And within that SCOM environment, there was a kind of topology aware, including some tests running. And actually these tests, the checks or service or functionality was there, brought some light in the darkness of how to create a service model. And actually that was driving actually the quality, instead of what the rest should be considered as risk drivers. If a server fails or a router fails, there's usually a redundant one. So the distinguishing between quality and risk became more aware. And then we start really thinking about how to continue.
Mm-hmm. Well, kind of trial and error.
Yeah, it was actually trial and error. I mean,
see, what the feedbacks are, etc., and the maintenance, usability. Yeah.
So the bad thing is, so we made some mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You'll probably make the same mistakes as well. But I want to help you with this presentation to avoid if you or make it quicker, go to the next phase.
And that's what's pretty much what we learned during this process. That's good.
So it didn't work. Large domains, networks, they're redundant all over the place. You should actually keep the redundancy and intelligence on if this fails, should it affect it. I mean, Access Spectrum does a very good job there. So keep that intelligence in that tool. The same actually for APM. We didn't have APM at that time, but if APM is able to detect that something is wrong, does it affect the user? So we became more aware of the difference in quality and risk. But at that time, a lot of confusion, unhappy results, and then it was a kind of a magic moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's the next slide.
And the next step, was the service desk integration.
Yeah, exactly.
You got the definitions, and now how can I communicate accordingly based on risk and degradation, etc. Or service going down.
Yeah, exactly. So then talking to our customer service desks, and we are merging them, and to save money. It came actually that they generated the question and became more clear, okay, we want to have actually a quality and risk indicator on a kind of a service. Someone calls, I have a bad phone experience, we ask, okay, at which customer you're located and on which location. And having these two metrics, we have a problem, we know the customer, we know the location. For instance, a voice service doesn't work. And then we came with a kind of a service model, which was actually just delivering these status. But if you have a regular network, just routers and switches, what is the quality? So we also stated that the quality is something the end user within a customer organization is able to experience. And at that time we were hardly measuring that. So something very simple, Cisco IP SLA, feature which is out there already for, maybe 15 years. Just some response time. Actually did a very good trick that if I have somewhere, in New York, a test running within a router or the voice service is still okay, that should be a separate object within the service model. It should not be related to the router because the router is probably still okay, but at the back end something is wrong while giving a very bad voice quality. So we are splitting that. We take the end user perspective, measurements, we treat them separately within the service model versus what we have regarding the infrastructure itself. So location and customer name, that's very easy to use at a service desk. And then we have to split about what is a quality and what is a risk. And the quality should really match something related to the customer. So IP SLA was a start. And there are many other metrics actually which can also do the same trick. Okay, if you have UCM, you can use the mask score. We are formal PTT, so that does state something. The same for if we use APM, the user response time, or for the UAM we have the end-to-end robots. That actually also drives the quality indicator. And it also makes us more efficient and able to say, okay, something is wrong, and what is the priority of that? So instead of having always the same priority, we're able to distinguish from that and also to drive our service organization how important a certain outage of a certain device is. We can use these metrics as well. So actually, instead of having all kind of discussions with contracts, thinking about, oh, forget about a contract, what is value for our own internal organization, and think about how to make that more efficient and make them understand, okay, I do see there's a problem in New York regarding the quality. That did the trick.
And that comes to the third, steps or iteration for the service definition, the location-based. That's
the location-based service models.
Yeah.
And that you're not able to compare, okay, this is a service model in New York related to the router, but just the quality experience of the end user, and split that. That actually was the trick.
Right.
So if you compare actually what you do today or with your regular Spectrum solution, everything out in Spectrum should be considered not as a quality indicator, but as a risk, usually your router. And Spectrum has a lot of knowledge about how redundant it is and is able to retrieve the right root cause for that. But in general, it should be treated as just a risk. And the quality metrics, that really should be related to the end user. Of course, if you start working on it, you don't have immediately all kind of response time tests or quality metrics in place. But it's really something you should think about. And if it's Cisco IP SLA, it's almost for free, or it is for free, you just have to spend some time. But the value in the service model and to what your users is very, very high. So IP SLA, by the way, does also support mask score quality. So if no one is calling through over your network, and it's still an additional test, you still know that your quality of your service is actually really good. So it is a trade-off, of course, having additional traffic generated, but it does help your service organization dramatically. Yeah, and actually the only side effect of it, okay, your service model becomes a little bit bigger. An initial thing we always do is if it's a new generation of service model created, we do everything manually, just to figure out. And if that's successful, we're going to automate that one. The current service model setup, just a rough idea, is presented here. So we have one customer, we have the application status, and have all the response time and quality is related to that. We have different locations for that, and underneath you see the response time test. And for instance, this is just a part monitored by eHeath. So for us, I know there's only a few customers today who are using the eHeath connector. We want to have this metric being retrieved and brought to SOI. And for Spectrum, for instance, it's not possible. So the integration we have is not that eHeath is being fed to Spectrum and Spectrum is feeding SOI, because if you do that, you're losing the granularity. So you need the eHeath connector to do that for you. So the same request will be, I know you're working on the Performance Center connector. This granularity is very important to us. So we have to take that one. So that's the only little feature we're still waiting before we move over from eHeath to Performance Center.
Right. And we're working on that.
Yeah, I know, you're working on that. So probably I'm a beta customer.
Yep.
For the rest of the model, actually, it's the straightforward thing as you usually do. But that's only driving the risk. So the Q indicates the quality and the rest is the risk. So how does it look like in SOI? How is the dashboard look like? It's like this. So there's one customer where they want to really have an Active Directory, but or voice or DNS. And actually DNS, voice, or voice and SharePoint actually the best ones in this. The others are more old-fashioned generation. And if we just click on one of these, you can see exactly how it's being showed up. If you click one through, you will see the full animation. If we take SharePoint, how it's being set up. And with today's interface, you only see this layer, but then you really see the different locations on that. So we know, okay, the SharePoint is working from that location, actually without monitoring the backend. It's just because it's a network, it's Cisco. You can check this. And the SharePoint, okay, KPN does deliver it, but we are not monitoring within the service model how SharePoint is doing. We just showed it by remote having this response time test.
And you can see as well, like status for each of the different type of silos or application, and as well the beauty, everything that rolls up, at the top level, all your applications. And you can provide access afterwards to the different people in the organization, which is, really nice one,
If this is a large network, I mean, this network, I think it has about 10,000 devices. Definitely you're not going to create a service model itself, especially because you also have the IP SLA. So therefore automation of the service model is required. So we first do a small test. Does it work? We discuss it with our organization and the customer. But actually customer also, hey, this is a good thing. I want to have that one. So because of that, we even give customers access to the SOI dashboard. Just open up. I not want to hide anything. And they're very happy with that. They finally understand the quality and risk. We take away actually the IP SLA or the service level tab in your column in the dashboard. We're not using that today. And the quality and risk does do the job.
Right. And suddenly it worked.
Yeah, it worked. And the KPN service desk, our service desk, central service desk, I mean, they don't have to think really about what's done on this customer. We are able to merge them. And well, this is 7x24 available, so saving a lot of people. Well, not good for the people because they don't have a job anymore, but we became more efficient. So we're reducing the cost because of this service model. We faster are aware what is going wrong, saving a lot of false positive, false tickets. So it's very valuable for us.
And then the creation of this business services, for what we saw earlier, they are automatically created. I guess you've got very less, manual intervention to create the model.
Yeah, exactly. And we use different mechanisms to do that. The product evolved over time. I mean, I know there's a latest mechanism available to have almost everything we need within that connector and to bring it to SOI. Just being generated out of ServiceNow. The other service management system, we don't spend too much time on that because they are phasing out within half a year, 3 months. So our core service model is being driven by ServiceNow.
As well,
okay, so this is actually maybe too detailed, but there are different mechanisms of talking to SOI, and there's a new Accelerator Connector available, and that's actually filling all the gaps. So I'm now migrating to the Accelerator Connector, and then we don't have to do actually anything at all for maintaining the service model. So if a device is deleted, the IP SLA is going away. So it's not only creation, but also the deletion of CIs, which need to be processed. And actually, we didn't find a good solution to that. So we create our own mediation layer, and this is all web services, so latest technology. And actually, that works great. So
good connector.
The Accelerator Connector, that's doing the trick for us. Actually that was stated. And in addition to that, right now we are more rolling out the UEM end-to-end probes. Just make it a little bit more, not only Cisco dependent, but also having other mechanisms. And actually they do the same trick. So it's the end user response time. We are coming from a network provider or connectivity provider, and that actually makes it much more valuable. So the customers also want to pay more for that. And actually I'm just adding a little bit of response time test. The value is very high.
And did you get any help during all this journey from CA, or was a relationship with CA?
You can't figure it out all yourself, if I'm honest. Right. So we needed an expert to do that, and you have one guy in our SWAT team, Jeff Morris. He's helping us out big time here. He should be around, but I think
he's on a smart bar, by the way.
He's a smart bar right now. So Jeff is helping us out, and we have some co-developments. He's asking for feedback, so a lot of that is being found back in the Accelerator Connector, so you can all benefit from that. And actually, if you go to the presentation material, if you find of your product on SOI, is it able to bring what we need? Yeah, I mean, we can state, yes, you are. it does do the trick. We still silo-based organization. That will go away over time, but not that fast, not as fast as we want.
Right.
So probably the well-known diagram on the next slide, you all seen this in the pre-sales
which are the
documentation. Yeah, that's actually your information, right?
Exactly, the maturity.
So we are
of
able to come from a lower level to a higher level, and that's doing the trick. Yeah, we're very happy with that.
Which is the normal path, the maturity, start from silo-driven, based, afterwards the centralization of the alarms, create the business service capabilities, and then ramp up in automation, delivering an integration with a service desk, which is...
So we are going to, well, from enterprise event oriented, we're really going to business aligned. Much more easier than we thought. The most effort was actually in thinking about the service model. I think that's 80% of the time, and then 20% of the time is just creating the automation on that.
Right. The plumbing gets pretty easily.
Yeah, the thinking is the biggest.
Exactly. Going through silos, discussion with the different teams, the right definitions, and afterwards bring that all together. And the next, where is KPN going? The next step, the next, iteration here.
We have a big APM project running. So setting up Enterprise Team Center from APM. I mean, the new connector is based on that model. That's really what we're going to spend time on. So part of our question, probably there will be some better APM connectors, more functionality. And the good thing is actually we don't have to think about a service model because that's being maintained automatically. So the hardest part was actually what we already did, was thinking about the service model, the quality and risk. And the APM connector actually already starts doing the quality for all APM connectors. And the other thing is actually that the APM connector is not really very hard regarding the CIs, because usually our software team for a certain application is one solver group. So the database, CMDB database impact is very low. We just have one CI and we just take the top one and use it and add that to the service model. And that's not that changing. So I'm not sure, are we going to automate that one? There's only one time, and the application is not going away that fast. So I question, are we going to automate that one? I mean, the connector is that strong.
Right.
I don't see a need to do that.
Let's keep the topology and everything is automatically fed and managed in the solution,
Yeah, so Enterprise Team Center is very important. And of course, the thing is, today you still are relying on transaction monitoring. I mean, you can have APM just for response time monitoring, but that is not building up the service model,
right,
which you need in SOI. So that's the only downside right now. Although I think if you have APM, you also should try to implement the transaction monitoring.
But which will give you as well, the application to infrastructure, that you've got the full view, end to end, which is...
So, because we're rolling out APM right now, it's very easy. You have the service model already, and if you add UAM, because you know which server it runs to, it's very easy to assign the same alerts for that particular server. So APM will give you the server, and you can apply the alerts on that server from UAM.
Right.
Using UAM, you have, of course, the end-to-end probe again, which brings the quality. And actually, quality becomes more, well, that's actually the golden egg. Customers want to have a quality, but have no clue about what is the quality of a local area network. They really have no clue. And we bring it to the level that it should be a kind of application, and there's always a kind of application which makes them very easy to understand what a quality for their end user is.
Right. Then we come to the takeaways.
Yeah, takeaway. The end user. Within the customer organization, they're the most important person here. They will call your service desk. And that little talk, I have a problem, and the service desk should be able to figure out who to contact, who to assign the ticket to. That little trick, that little discussion, that phone call, and make sure that SOI is working there, that did the trick for us. And that's really quality. The end user understands the quality, wants to have a fast reaction from the application or have a proper voice quality. That's very important. and do that first, the thinking, and then start automating it, because maintaining the service model manually is actually totally impossible. It has to be automated.
Totally agree with you, yeah.
Okay.
That's, yeah. We've got all the, as just mentioned earlier, the APM integration that brings you automatically and manage automatically these CIs into your business services.
Yeah,
integrated with Spectrum as well, and then more information and granularity with UIM. And everything's bring, as just mentioned, the quality versus risk.
Yeah.
To give the best, user experience.
Yeah.
That's,
Spectrum doesn't bring any topology, it just can't, because you don't know what service it is, but actually for APM it's very simple.
Right. Excellent. Thank you very much, Ruud. Thank you everyone for your attention.
Questions? Okay. If you all stand for the mic, the recording.
I noticed you had SCUM listed out there in the slides. What did you use SCUM for, and what did you do at the end with SCUM?
Within SCUM, you're also able to kind of dependency map. And there's even some service, some package within Microsoft SCUM, for instance, for SharePoint or for Exchange, will automatically detect the relation between the SCUM managed modules. And that automatic creation, I mean, it's there, and we're using it. It's being replaced right now by UEM, by the way, but that actually brought the light, because they were adding some tests as well. I mean, we had a SCUM expert working within our company. Well, we were stopping with SCUM, so he left. But actually that idea made us think, hey, this is much better. So taking that service model is really for the back end, of course, SharePoint, and if you don't have these tests, you don't know what your users are experiencing. So he was part of that discussion at that time. You're still using SCUM?
What's your server model like? Look, what's the size approximately? You have Windows and Unix. Are you guys mixed shop, or you?
Well, actually, in the number of devices, I mean, we have about 60,000 routers and switches to be monitored, and we're starting right now with a data center, and so there's about 16,000 servers in the back end. So we're rolling out APM on top of that. We estimate to end up, I think the next year we're going to add 160 applications within APM. So, I mean, we're an old shop, everything is there, so it's very interesting to be there and understanding all pros and cons of different version generations and technologies.
So can you talk a little bit about the IP SLA? I'm not familiar with that. I saw you had a picture where it looked like you were monitoring Active Directory with the IP SLA, or
yeah,
how does that work?
IP SLA, it has a number of response time tests you can configure with any given Cisco device. Well, almost every. And it's just a command, so you start with RTR number, or with a later version IP SLA and a number, and then you can choose whatever protocol you want. So UDP, TCP, but also HTTP, mask tests are being added later on. You can even set the correct type of service, the quality of service metrics there. And you can also assign the IP address where it starts. So it's really, so you have to put that one in the correct VPN or VLAN. And then it's just pulling up. And eHeath is just retrieving that information every 5 minutes. And if it's failing, and eHeath has this great concept of automatic baselining, so I'm not setting any thresholds. Lazy. It does it automatically. And then it knows suddenly it's too slow. So it's not timeout, suddenly it's too slow. And then it already starts triggering directly, or actually after a poll. Then it knows eHeath is slow, so it's the live health module. And that live is instantly being sent to SOI, so you see a degradation of the quality.
So for something like Active Directory, you would do a IP SLA test for each of your domain controllers?
Yeah.
That would roll up into one?
Yeah, you can also check your, for instance, your DNS response time. So IP SLA, it has, I think, about 12 different type of tests. So we find the right combination. So it is actually, the model showed only one test, but there are multiple, just matching exactly what needs to be done. And if you go to, for instance, MaskCore, then it's between two Cisco devices. So we treat the one who's the source and say, okay, source to central, and then we're retrieving the information from there, and it's okay, if it's going bad in New York, they would say, okay, the quality from New York for your voice solution is bad. It's nothing to do with the router. Could be in the back end, or a lease line somewhere in between, over congestion, wrong quality of service queue. So by having these, and usually there's a standard set of config you can roll out easily over a large number of devices. And it makes your life actually very simple.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
You had mentioned APM transaction monitor on there.
Yeah.
Are you exposing that through CEM or some other means, or is that natively through APM that you're getting those statistics from?
With the later versions, so right now we are still on 10.1, we are migrated to 10.5. You have the Team Center functionality. And that with the 9 series, there you had the triage map. And with the later versions, you have the enterprise or Team Center functionality. But the lines between the components are only created if there's transaction monitoring in place. So no, not the response time, but the transaction monitoring. So that's unfortunately, you have to have that one. It has a little bit more load on the agents. Right. But it does create the service model, or the model in Enterprise Team Center. And that model is actually retrievable via the connector automatically. I love automatic because I don't have to maintain it. And we have too much out there. And they don't tell me that something has changed. So the tool should do that automatically.
Okay.
So by using that one, that's very key. Everything is very important for us that view in APM is consistent. If it's broken somewhere, we have an issue. Or maybe you should merge them within SOI, that these two blocks belong to one application. But that's, for now, it's still a manual task. It's not that very often.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Reid.
Have a great evening.
Great. Enjoy the show. Thank you.